Hello, Copic craft fans. It is Michelle Houghton here. We are starting into our next month of tutorials, and I am starting off with a newer set from My Favorite Things. This is a really cute set. This one is called Recipe for Happiness. We've got some fun little chef figures, 4 of them, and lots of little utensils and some phrases to go along. What I decided to do is, my daughter is a major cook. She's 11 and she loves cooking in the kitchen. So I'm going to make her a set of recipe cards. I found a free online printable, and then I decided I'm going to stamp onto the card. Unfortunately, with the color blocks that they put in, those are really cute, but it makes it, with Copic ink being transparent so you can see through it, that's not going to work for coloring him. And I looked for a recipe card that had more like of a block of white, but it just didn't work. And this was one that I really liked the look of. So, and I felt like this little chef fit into that card really well. So instead, I am going to color him on a separate piece of paper. This is printed on, or stamped. In particular, this time I'm using a Distress ink by Ranger. This one is pumice stone, so it's a lighter gray. And I'm going to color him and then cut him out, fussy cut him, and transfer him onto my recipe card. So I'm doing the chef pretty simply, just so that I could do multiples of him, and then I could make a whole set of cards for my daughter, and she can start filling these out with recipes that she loves and wants to keep hold of for later use in life, because she looks to be a person who will enjoy that throughout her life. So I am going to color this little guy. I have done it with a lighter ink, so it's going to look a little bit like no line coloring, but I do want the his kind of coat, or his chef coat, to be more of a white color, and so we're still going to see those lines. I'm not going to make them disappear, but it'll have a similar effect. So I'm going to get close in so you can see what's going on. I will speed this up. It shouldn't take too long, so I may not have to speed it up super fast, but I'll talk over it, and as always, I'll try to make sure to put all of those numbers of the colors I'm using up in the corner, so you know as I'm shifting from marker to marker what I'm shifting to. So I'm going to start with the white coat and hat, and I'm using W1, so warm gray 1, and I'm feathering in from the areas where I think there's going to be shading. My light source, hopefully you can tell already, is over on my left hand side, so the lightest portions are going to be over on that left hand side. I'm coming in with W3 now, hitting those inner creases, that right hand side, and up underneath the hat. And I kind of figured that front flap kind of sticks out. W1 is next, doing a little bit of blending between the two areas. That right side is going to stay the darkest, and then switching over to my colorless blender to fade into white. The W1 is pretty light, and so I don't have to start with the colorless blender. I can come back and fade it pretty easily into white. So next I'm doing the skin. YR000 is what I'm going to start with. I'm just getting his little face and his ears. YR01 is what I'm going to shade with. Again, coming in from that right side, getting into the center of the ear on the left, and just a little bit down around the jawline, what he has of a jawline, and then blending with YR000. E93 is going to pinken up his cheeks just a touch. You'll see it more on the left hand side where it's lighter, and I'm going to fade that side in with the YR000. YR14 is going to go with his little mustache, and then YR18 just at the bottom edge, and I'm drawing on top of those curls that come out from the hat. B24 is going to go on the kerchief around his neck and also his pants. I'm just filling it in, always starting with a nice coat of that color when I'm filling in an area, so getting it shade, nice even coverage. B28 is next for my shading, right up under the coat, bottom edge, and again the right side of the legs, going into the detail of the knot and some of those folds on the kerchief around his neck. And I am going to do the B28 as well on the buttons. Notice I switched my pin so it's more vertical and I can get way up on the tip of that nib. B24 for just a touch of blending back on the pants and the kerchief around his neck. C7 is going to fill in the shoes, and then he is all colored. So I have this little chef, and he's all colored up and ready to jump on a recipe card. There's some tiny places that I'm going to cut around, and obviously I had a couple places where I know my ink kind of strayed past the lines. There were some tiny detailed spots. I'm not worried about that because I know I'm going to fussy cut him out, and so I'm not super precautious on some of those. I did also realize that a couple of my markers, I probably need to replace the brush nibs because they've gotten super soft on me, and so it is a little bit harder to control. But he's ready to go. So I have a second one of him already cut out. Very similar. Used the exact same colors, in fact. And I have him cut out and ready to go. So he is going to sit on this little recipe card. Now, you'll notice when I stamped the recipe card, I did stamp that in black. So I might end up with some little black edges showing. A couple of things I can do. I could run around the edge of my stamp. And actually, I'll do that real quick with my C7 that I have out. And I'm just gonna brush right along the edge, really lightly. When I do this again, I will not go around with such a dark color. You'll see why in a second, but I lose some details. Yeah, he's a little black, especially around his little face. But I can add some glue to the back of him. I've got this Express It glue pen, which I like because it can get onto these little tiny fine details like his little feet, because I really want this to attach down well. And he is ready to go. A little recipe card for my daughter. Her favorite color is blue, by the way, so that is why this little chef ended up with some blue accessories. But pretty easy and fast. It really only took me about 10 minutes to do the coloring, or even less to do the coloring. I probably have been talking longer than that. And so pretty fast I could put out a set of, a nice set of those kind of assembly line fashion and have a little set of cards for her to fill out if she would like. Thanks for joining me this week on Copic in the Craft Room. Hope to see you again. Have a happy, colorful week.